everyone. So in this video lecture, we're going to talk about Lambda function in Python, and I actually received a request from the student, and a student has given this code that contains Lambda, and the question is basically how this code is working and the reason behind using Lambda here, something like that. So we'll get to that. I'm going to explain you Lambda function first. Why do we use it? How do we use it? And then we'll jump onto the code and we'll see why the code is the way it is, right? So we're talking about Lambda function. Okay, so Lambda is actually a keyword in Python, and it's called Lambda function. That is it. Okay, it does not have any name. It doesn't have any name. It is an unknown function, and it is also a very restricted function in the sense that you cannot extend it like other functions. It has a specific syntax, like it is one-liner first of all. That makes it a very restricted function. And if you look at the syntax of Lambda function, so syntax goes something like this: Lambda parameters. Now it can be one parameter, it can be more than one parameters, and then there will be certain expression. Okay, expression is like something to work on the parameters. Okay, parameters, basically parameters meaning arguments. Okay, so this is the syntax for a Lambda function. This is your keyword. Okay, and these are parameters. It can be one or more, and this would be an expression. Okay, now it can have one parameter, it can have more than one parameters. Now let us see what it returns. So what does it return? It will return some expression, just one expression. Okay, it will return one expression. So there will be multiple parameters, but output will be single output, right? And now let's look at some of the examples. So first of all, we'll take one parameter. Okay, now why do you actually use it, right? You will understand that too. First of all, let's take this example. So we'll take just one parameter. So when you're working with Lambda, see, I wrote Lambda and it's a keyword, and so the syntax is Lambda, and then you need to have some parameters. So I'm gonna take just one parameter, let's say A, and then the expression. Now expression can be anything, but it should include the parameter. Okay, otherwise there is no point using a parameter. So how can you use this parameter in the expression? Depends on what the expression actually is. So maybe I want to add something to these parameters. Okay, maybe I want to add 4 to A. So the expression would become A plus 4. Okay, this is the syntax for Lambda function. Now this Lambda function, when you run it, it is going to return the address, and as I told you, it is going to return something, right? It is returning one expression. So you need to have another variable to catch that thing. Every time you work with a return, you need to have something to catch it. Okay, this is very simple explanation of return. So it returns something, you need something to catch it. So B equals to this thing, right? Now this is actually not the actual output. This is just the and why am I saying that? It's because we have this parameter, but we haven't decided the value of it. Okay, so when you're working with Lambda, what you need to remember first is that you will write the expression, you will write the statement, one-liner function, basically one-liner functional statement. And after you do that, on the left hand side, you need to have a variable where the value will be got. Okay, and when you do that, once you have done that, you can print the output by using this return variable, whatever will be returned here. So you need to use that variable, and what happens is, like, when you are using Lambda, something gets returned. Now you can use this, in a way you can use this as a method, right? So you are going to provide the value here. Okay, so consider it that way, like this becomes the method, and this will require the value, and this value will be given to this parameter. Okay, so maybe I want to add 2 plus 4, so I'm going to write 2 here. Okay, so it's going to print the value 6, right? And if there are more parameters, more than one parameter, if we have more parameters, then instead of having A here, maybe you will have C, D, and I'm just making it very simple, and here again I'm using print statement, because otherwise the address will be printed, right? So print B will be used as the method, and then I can pass the value, so maybe 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is how Lambda actually works. Now keep this thing in mind, because this is the expression, this is the code actually, sorry, that has been sent. So this is the code. I'm gonna write it here. Return Lambda B, A plus B Z equals my math 2, print Z 6. Okay, now this is really very confusing if you look at it. What is happening here? See, the main use of Lambda is, like I told you, Lambda is it is an anonymous function, so it is unknown function. There is no name for Lambda, and it is usable. It is useful when you are using some list of parameters where maybe you need to change them both, right? Or maybe you need to just change one of them, right? So here, in a way, we are running two functions. First function is myMath, right? And second function is this one, Lambda. Okay, and as we did earlier, when you are using Lambda, it is going to return something, right? And when Lambda returns something, you need something to catch it. This is what I told you, right? You can remember it like that. But in this case, now see, Lambda returns something, and in this case, this function, myMath function in itself, is a returning Lambda. Okay, and you already know whenever you are using a function, so in a way, this is the definition for myMath function, and this is the definition for this Lambda function, right? And every time you have a function definition and you wanna call a function, right, you need to call a function, right? Every time you have a function definition and you wanna use this function, you need to call this function. That's how I should put it, right? So when you want to use this function, you need to call two functions, myMath, and it is returning something. So we need something to catch it, right? And this function, Lambda function. So we need to call it, and because it is also going to return something, so it has to be caught somewhere, right? Now I'll show you what is happening here. So you have these two functions, okay? First of all, myMath function gets called, okay? And when you call myMath function, obviously there is this parameter here, so you have to pass some argument, right? So when you call myMath function, you are passing 2. 2 goes here, okay? Value of A is 2, right? Now you get the value of 2. This is 2. And we have another function lambda defined here. Okay, and when this function gets returned, you know, my math function is run when you call this statement, when this statement gets executed. So this statement gets executed first, and what happens is 2 goes here, right? And then control comes to this statement and it returns lambda b a plus b, lambda b 2 plus b. Okay, it returns it. Okay, so in a way it is returning this lambda, right? And when it gets returned here, z catches it. So z becomes the function, the actual function, like we did here, right? I told you that when lambda gets returned, right, it runs, it gets returned, and then b becomes the method in a way, right? And then you will pass the arguments. You can pass the argument using this b because it becomes the method. Similarly here, when lambda gets returned, z catches it. Now lambda is a function, so think of it like this. So lambda gets returned, lambda is a function, z becomes a function. Okay, so in the next statement what you can do is 2 has already been passed, right? So in the next statement z gets called and you can pass 6 also. And obviously which parameter is associated with lambda? This a parameter was associated with my math, right? So it goes here. Now which parameter is associated with lambda? B parameter, because you know I told you the syntax, lambda and then the arguments for this function or parameters, right? So b is associated with lambda. So when z becomes lambda and when you call this z and you pass this 6, it automatically goes to b. So b will be, b's value will be 6, right? And when you run this entire statement, you will get the result. Okay, so that would be 6 plus 2, that is 8, right? I hope this is clear, and I will also run it here. What was the function? Okay, it's my math a, and we are returning lambda b a plus b. Okay, z is my math 2, and then print is z 6, right? And you have 8. So this is how this function works, lambda function. And yeah, so I hope this is clear. And if you still have any doubt, feel free to ask again. I would love to explain again. So this is it for this video lecture. I'll see you in the next video lecture. Till then, take care.